Welcome back to Miss Bell's classroom. Please remember to enroll in my classroom by clicking the subscribe button. And thank you for joining me today for class. So today what we're going to talk about is commas and just some of the rules of commas. So I'm going to kind of tell you a rule and then we'll look at a few examples and decide where we could put the commas at. Okay, so we're going to talk about 8 basic rules. So if you have any questions while we're doing this, feel free to raise your hand. Okay? Alright, so the first rule is to use a comma to separate independent clauses. And basically what that means is use a comma to separate a clause is kind of just like, if it can be independent, that just means a sentence that can kind of stand on its own. But you usually have 2 independent clauses, and there might be a conjunction, like for example, and, but, yet, or, nor, or for, and those will join the 2 complete ideas. So when we do this, you're going to have an idea here, conjunction, and then another idea. And we'll need a comma to separate the first idea. Then we'll have our conjunction, and then we'll have our second idea, or our clause. Okay, so for example, what this means is if I had the sentence, he walked down the street. So this is the first part of our sentence, and we can see that this could be a complete idea. I could end it with a period, so we could call this an independent clause. Okay, but if I want to add something to the sentence, let's say I use the conjunction and, I need to put a comma before the and then I can say my other part of the sentence, so my other independent clause. Then he turned the corner. Okay, so this would be one independent clause or one complete idea. And then he turned the corner. So when we put 2 independent clauses together using a conjunction like and, yet, but, or so, we're going to want to add a comma before that. Okay, let's try another one and see if we can figure out where the comma goes. Okay, so I'm going to write it down. You can go shopping with me, or I'll give you a clue, this is our conjunction, or you can go to the movie alone. Okay, so we have two independent clauses, or two complete ideas here. So this is our first complete idea. We have our conjunction, and then we have our other complete idea. Okay, so where do you think our comma might go for this? Good, yeah, it's gonna go before or and after me, because we want to use the conjunction as our kind of our clue, and the comma separates our two independent clauses. Okay, any questions? Okay, good. Okay, so the next time that you would want to use a comma is after an introductory clause or phrase. So I'll show you an example of this. So what this means is you're going to use a comma after an introductory clause or phrase, and the comma is going to tell the readers that the introductory clause or phrase has come to a close and that the main part of the sentence is about to begin. So let me show you an example of this. So for example, we might say, when Emma was ready to cook. When Emma was ready to cook, comma, her cat knocked the flour over. Okay, so if we look here, we used our comma right here, and we used it there because the comma here is telling us that the main part of the sentence is about to come. So her cat knocked the flour over is the main part of the sentence. This is just kind of like an introduction to what the sentence is really about in the important part. Okay, so let's try another one. Here, a small stream the park rangers discovered gold. Okay, so I'm going to give you a clue for this. If this is the main point of the sentence and this is just the introduction, where are we going to put our comma at? Good, yeah, it's gonna go after stream because you want to use a comma when it's coming to the main part. So we know that this is kind of like our bread and butter of the sentence. Okay? That's what the sentence is supposed to be mostly about. Okay? Right. Okay, so the next one, when another important use of commas is in a series. So when you're listing things, you're going to want to use commas to separate the things that you're listing. So anytime that you're listing 3 or more things, you need to use commas to show that you're listing. And I'll show you what that looks like, okay? So I might say I bought apples, oranges, and bananas. Okay, so I'm listing the things that I bought. So the first thing I listed is apples. So I'm going to put a comma after apples. And the second thing I'm listing is oranges. So I'm going to put a comma after oranges. The word that comes after "and," you don't need to put a comma because there's a period and that's the last thing that you're listing. If I had another word here like apples, oranges, peaches, and bananas, I would put a comma after peaches too. Okay, so let's do an example together. Okay, let's do when I got home, I took a shower, brushed my teeth, took out my contacts, and washed my face. Okay, so what are the things that are being listed here? Yeah, so I'm listing the things that I did when I got home. So the first thing that I did was I took a shower. So my comma needs to go after shower. What was the second thing that I did? Brushed my teeth. So where does the comma go? Good, after teeth. Took out my contacts. And then where does the comma go there? After contacts. And do we need any more? Nope, we don't, because this is the last thing that we're listing. Very good. is you're going to want to use commas to set off non-restrictive clauses. And what that means is you use commas to enclose clauses not essential to the meaning of the sentence. And I'll show you what that actually means. Okay, so for example, if I said Stephanie, whose show you enjoy will host next week. Okay, so this right here is our non-restrictive clause. Okay, so we want to use commas to kind of enclose those, and what that means is these are just non-essential things for a sentence. So it's just kind of giving you more information about Stephanie or an object. So you want to put a comma before and after, because if I erased it, the sentence would still make sense. You could still say, Stephanie will host next week. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to do another one and I'm going to need your help. Okay? So, Joey spent 4 days camping is back at work. Okay, so is there any part of the sentence that is non-essential to know what the point of the sentence is? Excuse me. Okay, yeah, so we don't really need to know that Joey spent 4 days camping, because I think the point of the sentence is Joey is back at work, right? Okay, so where are the commas going to go? After Joey and after camping. Because this is the non-restrictive clause. It's not essential to the sentence. I could erase it and the sentence would still make sense. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay. Alright, so you're also going to want to use a comma to set off positives, and I'll tell you kind of what that means with an example too. Okay, so an appositive is a noun or a noun phrase that renames a nearby noun. So appositives, kind of like the non-restrictive clauses, they offer non-essential information. So non-restrictive appositives are set off with commas. Restrictive appositives are not. Okay. So, for example, if I said, Alexander Pope, then I'm going to put a comma there, and I'm going to say the poet, comma, is famous for his monologues. Okay, so the appositive here would be the Pope. So it's kind of, or sorry, not the Pope, the poet. It's kind of like that non-essential information. It gives us more information, but took that out, it would still make sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next rule. Any questions so far? Okay. Alright, so the next use of commas would be to indicate direct address. So what that means is when a speaker in a sentence names the person to whom he or she is speaking to, this addressing of his audience or her audience is called direct address. So it's indicated by the use of a comma. So, for example, I might say, I think, comma, Sarah, comma, you're right. So the direct address would be towards Sarah. So we need these commas to show that the address is at Sarah. You also might see it written like Sarah, comma, I think you're right. So we're addressing Sarah, so we need a comma after Sarah, since there's nothing that comes before Sarah. It's the beginning of the sentence. And then you also might see Sarah's name at the end. So you also might say, I think you're right, comma, Sarah. Okay, so it's naming a person to whom you're speaking to. Okay, so we're talking to Sarah. So we're going to show that by putting a comma in. So it could go in the middle, beginning, or the end of a sentence. Okay? Okay, the next use is where I see commas used the most incorrect. So this is use commas to set off quotation marks. So I'll kind of go through some of those. So, for example, you might say something like, Mary said, and then before you put your quotation mark here, So if you say the person and what they said, then you do your quotation marks. You have a comma before the quotation marks. Okay, so you might say, Mary said, I love concerts. Then you would put your quotation marks. So you just need to put the quotation mark before what Mary said. Okay. Another example of this. So if Mary said comes before what she said, you'll put the comma before the quotation mark. Sometimes you might see the dialogue or quotation marks written like this. I like concerts. So in this case, this is where it gets kind of tricky. In this case, your comma will go inside of the quotation marks. Okay, so then you would say said Mary. Okay, so if it says Mary said I love concerts, the comma goes before the quotation mark. If it says I like concerts, the comma needs to go before the quotation mark. It's going to go inside the quotation mark. Okay. And then here's another one that gets kind of tricky. So I'm going to use quotation marks. I love concerts. So we know that it hasn't said or explained or anything like that. So our comma needs to go here before. Then we can say proclaimed Mary. Well, after she said I love concerts, she said something again, which means we have to add another comma after Mary. Okay? So then I'm going to do quotation marks again. And I could say, because the music is loud. And I would put my period inside the quotation marks. So kind of think of it as punctuation, as in commas, periods, exclamation marks, question marks go inside of the quotation marks. Okay? Right. Any questions so far? Okay. Alright, so the next rule is using commas with dates, addresses, titles, and numbers. So for dates, when you use a comma with dates, you want to, so if you write your month, let's say that it's March 1st. After the number or the day of the month, you're going to put a comma, and then you can put the year. So you might say March 1st, 2018. Okay? For addresses, so like if you're listing a city and then a country, or a city and a state, what you need to do is you're going to put the places, and so I'll show you an example of this. If you said Liverpool, England, the comma's going to go after the city, okay? But sometimes there are, like when you're writing a letter, maybe you might say the street name, so you might say something like 1 Main Street, and then maybe it's in New York City, and then I'm going to put my comma, and then I will put the state, New York, and then after that would be the zip code. So like, I don't know the New York zip code, but I'll just make up, maybe it's 1, 2, 3, or 5. Okay? The next way to use this is titles. So maybe if someone is a doctor or they have their PhD, things like that, you can use their name and then the title to show that. So maybe you might say Jane Smith, comma, MD, comma, is the doctor on call. Okay, so Jane Smith, I'm putting commas to show her title that she is an MD. Okay, and it's kind of like those positives. And then the last one is commas and numbers. So you use commas and numbers for any number more than 4 digits long. So use commas to separate the numbers in groups of 3. Okay, so starting from the right, you'll count in 3. So for example, if we had 3,500, we're going to start at the right and go in 3. That's where my comma goes. So if it has 4 or more digits, you add a comma. So if we had this number, I'm going to go in 3, 2, 3, comma goes here. Okay. And this number, so I'm going to go in 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, I still have an additional 3, so I'm going to go in 3 again. 1, 2, 3. And that would separate my numbers. Any questions so far? Okay, feel good about this? Okay. Alright, well, thank you for tuning in and learning about commas with me, or refreshing your memories about commas with me, or just relaxing with commas. I hope that you enjoyed this video today. Good night.